Foreign Policy, United States of America, from 1776 to the Great Depression. The Articles of Confederation were written to establish the functions of the national government after the United States declares independence from Britain. The Department of State began on January 10, 1781. As the Department of Foreign Affairs, they soon found out that the Articles of Confederation was weak and had no foreign policy power. Due to the failures of the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution of 1789 was designed to add more responsibility for foreign affairs. Washington dedicates a large part of his farewell address to discussing foreign relations and the dangers of permanent alliances between the United States and foreign nations, which he views as foreign entanglements. This issue dominated national politics during the French Revolutionary Wars between France and Britain, which began in 1793 and ended in 1802. George. Isolation became the dominant foreign policy for the next 100 years. America observed political isolation from European powers to maintain neutrality during periods of war. Benjamin Franklin had summed up this point when he wrote, "A virgin state should preserve its virgin character and not go to suing for alliances, but wait with decent dignity for the application of others." Trade restrictions were placed on the United States by Britain along with the impressment of U.S. sailors into the British Navy. President James Madison declared war against Britain. The Monroe Doctrine was a U.S. policy that was introduced on December 2, 1823, which stated that efforts by European countries to colonize land or otherwise interfere in the Americas would not be viewed by the United States as an act of aggression. This doctrine was put forth by President James Monroe. The Manifest Destiny had a very profound impact on U.S. foreign policy in both in terms of the westward expansion towards the Pacific and in terms of relationships with other countries. The Manifest Destiny was viewed as a symbol of how the United States was becoming a larger, wealthier, and stronger influence in the world. England proclaimed neutrality and afforded the Confederacy the status of a belligerent power. Other European nations followed England's lead. This gave the Confederacy the right, according to international law, to contract loans and to purchase arms from neutral nations, which in turn gave England safety from both Union and Confederate warships. In 1898, the annexation of Hawaii took place and played a very important role in the United States economy. The location was perfect as a trading point for Asian nations and to place U.S. naval stations. After Spain lost its battle with the United States purchased the Philippines along with a few other islands from the Spanish. However, the people of the Philippines were happy about being taken over by another imperialist powers such as the United States. The fight began. Imperialism versus nationalism. Foreign policy in America had a turning point, and that was signaled by a series of military involvements such as the War of Spain, the conquest of the Philippines, and World War I. So we went from neutrality to war. The United States desperately tried to stay neutral, but ties to Britain propaganda, the sinking of ships by German U-boats, and a German attempt in the Zimmermann Note to get Mexico to declare war on the United States pushed the United States to getting involved in World War I. In 1918, Wilson articulated 14 points to help end the war and establish a basis for cooperation, which included freedom of the seas, open economic trade, the evacuation of occupied territories, the liberation of non-Turkish people in the Ottoman Empire, and a general collection of nation-states to offer members territorial integrity and political independence, setting the stage for what will later become the League of Nations. What ensued was a radical shift in U.S. foreign policy, which promoted a stance of isolationism that would last until 1941. The United States fell more into isolation. They placed new restrictions on immigration and continued to focus more on domestic affairs rather than foreign affairs. However, they did get a lot of foreign policy accomplished, such as the United States chose not to join the League of Nations. It spearheaded talks on limited disarmament and to maintain international peace. The Five-Power Treaty was signed by the United States, Japan, France, Italy, and Great Britain. The Nine-Power Treaty was signed by the United States, Great Britain, France, Italy, Japan, China, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Portugal. The United States pledged its support in the open door policy with China. The Great Depression of the 1930s was a global event that derived in part from events in the United States and U.S. financial policies. As it lingered through the decade, it influenced U.S. foreign policies in such a way that the United States government became even more isolationist. The end.